Hi, everyone. It's Amy Broderick. I'm your host today for the Humanitarian Hub. And this is a brand new channel that we've just started that is designed to support all the service projects going on in the world right now to help rebuild our world and to inspire you with new ideas of ways you can serve, as well as you can learn from people that have already done it. And it's also going to be a place we can gather and collaborate on projects moving forward. So I am super excited today to introduce to you a woman I've known not for very long, but we have done some great work side by side. The organization that we're going to talk about today is Free Hot Soup Kansas City. And one of the senior members who has had a lot to do with how this whole thing flies here in Kansas City is Rachelle Burnett. So Rachelle, say hi.
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me today.
It's my honor to have you be our inaugural interview. And I'm just so proud of our city and what we have been up to. And I certainly look up to you for all of the great work that you have been doing.
Thank
And
you.
it just warms my heart to see it. And so if we can take this today and move it out into the world in a bigger way, that would be my greatest intention for our time together. So
Yes, that would be wonderful.
so why don't we start, Rachelle, with you just sharing a little bit about yourself personally, and then we can launch into some other stuff.
Okay. Well, hello again. So I am a mother of two, and my mother is kind of the reason that, well, we're here today, probably, well, for multiple reasons, but more importantly, because she instilled in me as a child that it's important to take care of the people around us, whether it's our family, our friends, or a complete stranger. We've had people in and out of our house that needed a place to stay as I was growing up, and later on in life, she owned a restaurant that flooded in the flood of '93 down on a very prominent part of our city that was prone to flooding. And it was the community that gave back to her and came in and rebuilt her restaurant within like less than 2 weeks. So she was up and running again. And because of that, she wanted to give back to the community for doing that for her, because that meant, her livelihood was back up and running. And so she called down to City Union Mission, which is the big homeless shelter here in Kansas City. And she said, I'd like to do a Thanksgiving dinner. If you could get people here, I'd love to feed some folks. And so they agreed, and they sent a bus load of people over. It was about 25 people. It was a snowstorm, and they still managed to do it. They sent about 25 people in one load and then another 25 people over, and she fed everybody a big Thanksgiving dinner. Everybody that prepared food and helped serve food were actual customers that came in and helped her during that process of rebuilding. So it was a community event, and it went so well the first time that we continued to do it. I say we, my mom, and then us, family and friends and neighbors, continue to do it for the next 13 years into my early 20s. She then, and it grew. She was serving not just people from the shelter, but also taking in families from our immediate community around the restaurant and providing children with their Christmas and offering jobs. I mean, she's always done something for somebody. And when she sold the restaurant and retired, it kind of left all of us with, we worked all year to gather supplies and stuff, getting ready for this big event around Thanksgiving to feed everybody and take care of everybody around Christmas time. And We did fundraisers throughout the year. And so there was a handful of us that were like, what are we going to do now? We prepare all year for this big event, and now we don't have anything to do. So we started well, it was an organization, just a small group, and we called ourselves Cover KC. And that kind of started with me leaving work one day, and I noticed a woman with this tiny little blanket, and it was freezing temperatures, and she was trying to keep warm walking through the neighborhood. And it just got me thinking, why is that even happening? Why is she struggling so hard to keep warm right now? Why are we allowing that to happen? And I didn't know much about homelessness or anything at that time. And I just thought, well, what if we just all on one day, pick a day, whatever day, and we throw a blanket in our car, all of us. I blasted it out there, and we just throw a blanket in your car and we cover Casey in that one day. We just do that. And so that was how Cover Casey became to fruition, and that started my my works within Kansas City and the homeless community, and later found Free Hot Soup, and here we are. So
Wow. Well, thanks, Mom. That was amazing. I hadn't heard that story. So it's like, it really is true that, whatever gets sort of nurtured when you're young like that can really have a purpose and flourish, as you move through your life. So I know my dad took care of, through our church, we had Thai refugees. And he, when they came to the church, he kind of said, our family's going to adopt them. And so throughout our whole life, we took care of this family. And so it's those kinds of things. When you think back, they set up the service, they set up the community, the collaboration, all the pieces. So it's very cool. And so Free Hot Soup KC has been around. Is it 9 years now?
Since 2016. So yes, it's 8 years.
8 years. Okay. And so how did that come to be? So that because you didn't originally found it. Who was the original founder of Free Hot
Soup? The original founder of Free Hot Soup was Nellie McCool. And well, the original founder of Free Hot Soup Kansas City is Nellie McCool. Free Hot Soup actually originated in Portland, Oregon. And they still run in Portland, Oregon as well. Nellie moved from Portland just before, I don't know if it was early 2016, because Free Hot Soup started in the winter of 2016. She moved back home here from Portland, and it was after the Super Bowl that it was after the World Series. The Royals had won the World Series, and it was really neat to see the city come together and just all the feels that everybody had, and everybody helping everybody through that time. And just our city was different in that moment. And Nellie thought, gosh, there's so much love in this city. Like, they need a Free Hot Soup here. And so her family consisted of, I think, her mom and maybe an aunt, decided that they would do just that. And they took some soup and a few sandwiches, and they picked a spot that they were going to consistently visit in hopes to help people in that area. They purposefully chose one of the most dangerous parts of the city, in hopes that they could bring need to an area that truly needed it. So one of the very first picnics happened around 10th and Prospect, which is still very much a dangerous part of our city. But there's a park there, and they showed up at 2 o'clock on a Sunday, and they saw a few people and handed out food, and they talked and made a few friends that day. And they said, hey, we'll be back here next week. And they did just that. They came back at the same time the following Sunday, and they consistently showed up every Sunday at the same time, and more people began to come to their picnics. I showed up.
Important tip right there is the consistency of, we're going to do this, we're going to show up every week, because they need to know when they can count on that.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
They know on any given Sunday at 2 o'clock where they can find food. And that was important. So I actually came in the following winter, because we were doing the Cover KC once a year. We were collecting all these donations, and once a year we'd go out, because it turned into, we'd give blankets out this one time, and then the next year people were like, oh, what are we gonna do this year? And so we accumulated donations, and after like the fourth year of doing that, I was like, I'm not really feeling this driving around once a year and handing blankets out the window. So I actually got on Facebook and sought out a group that I could essentially pawn off the people that were with me and bugging me to do something. I'm like, I'm just not really feeling this anymore. So I found free hot soup and showed up at the picnic just to try to kind of check it out, to see what direction I wanted to lead everybody to. And I showed up at 10th and Prospect. I met Nellie, and she was talking to people as if they were people, and asking them, how about their health, and about maybe their sister or their brother, and having conversation. And this was a whole new thing to me. All I had done in the last 4 years was hand a blanket out a window to somebody that looked cold. And here she is actually getting to know people and meet them right where they are, and take care of whatever needs that they might have, not just giving them soup or a sandwich, but, an extra pair of socks, or an extra blanket, or, some shoes if their shoes had been worn out. And I went back to my group that day, and I said, I don't know what you guys are going to do from here, but I met this lady, and I know where I will be every Sunday from here forward. And I showed up at the picnic a couple times before I told Nellie. I said, you know what? I have a lot of people that want to help, and we have a lot of donations. Can I do this in another part of the city? And that there created my park that I currently lead and have led for the last several years, Ilis W. Davis Park. And it's right in the middle of downtown, where there was also a great need to make sure people were fed and taken care of. So.
Yes, and that's the one I tend to go to and serve and bring food for. And then there's a third one as well that gets done every week now. When did that one get added? And that's the Washington Park one.
Yes, Washington Square Park. I met Lindsay while out serving. She came to serve with Nellie, and then piggybacked with me because we go out to some encampments after we serve out the actual park location. Just meeting people like in their homes, because sometimes they're riddled with different mental illness that prevents them from coming into a larger crowd. So we consistently go see those same folks and take care of them. And I met her out on one of the routes, and we talked for a little while, and I could tell it was something that she really had in her heart to do, and wanted to start a third park. It was actually the fourth park, because at that time we had another one in Kansas City, Kansas, which isn't going currently, but we chose a spot for her, and we went collaboratively and helped and got that going. And now they serve, oh geez, up to 200 people as well on a Saturday. So now we have full on picnics, not too far from each other. So you're seeing a lot of the same crowd on Saturday and then also on Sunday. So they know that they can get a meal on any of those 2 days on the weekends, fairly close. So
Yes. Now, is Lindsay a case? Is she a case work? Yeah, is she a caseworker?
she's not a caseworker. She actually, her job title, I don't know what her official title is, but she works with potential homeless children.
Yeah, the youth.
So that is her focus. Yeah.
Yeah. So she has a little more of the wraparound
Mhm.
care background. So,
Yes.
and that seems to be the case for the picnics that I've been to. There's usually someone there that has some of that support background that's not just there for the meal, but also, as you're mentioning, how else can we support? What are
Mhm.
the needs? And so what you just said, I think, is important to just sort of circle back to for a minute, and that is that beyond the picnics, which right now are serving hundreds, I mean, literally, we're in line serving for several hours, typically
Mhm.
set up
Mhm.
and breakdown times. So it's amazing sometimes, to look, and the line is just, and I wasn't doing it before COVID, but would you say since COVID it's grown exponentially?
Well, I think in some of the parks, yes. In my park, um, which before COVID was serving the most amount of people in need, not just homeless, but people that are food insecure that would come with their families or lived in the neighborhood or whatnot. So before COVID, we were serving around 300 people on a Sunday, just at the park. And
Yeah.
after COVID, a lot of that, the families and more of the food insecure, the neighborhood really backed off, and we changed our schedule. So we are seeing a little bit less at our park, but I think it really has amped up at the other parks. I know Prospect Plaza Park, which was the original park, they've always had a really quaint little group. A lot of people in the neighborhood, more families and stuff. Their numbers have grown quite a bit, maybe doubled even since COVID. And then Washington Square Park, I think, is seeing quite a bit more now than they were pre-COVID. But I think it's just the dynamics of where everybody's at.
Yeah.
So,
I know
and
just walking the streets during COVID, I do a lot of city walking, and there were so many homeless, like over by the convention center area. And, I could just see the numbers of more folks on the streets than I had. I mean, before they were a little more hidden away in encampments and things like that, but that had changed during that time. And
that's for sure.
one of the things I notice when I'm serving, and I really try to just like look everyone in the eye, give them a smile, and notice
So important.
they really pay attention to like what I wear. Like one day I had on Faith Over Fear t-shirt or whatever, and I would hear people make comments back to me, and so like it's even made me think about like buying more positive sweatshirts and things that can give off another message, right? But I remember, what else was I going to say about that? I had a thought and I just got off tangent. But the, so yeah, so just being mindful. But what I noticed is I can tell when new people show up, because you see all the familiar faces, and then you see someone, you go, they're new, they're new on the streets, or they're in their car and they're coming over for the food and stuff like that. And so it's you get to know, like you said, who they are. I don't have as much experience afterwards of going and doing some of the extra stuff that you guys do, but that was my point, is letting people know that, like you said, not everyone shows up, like sometimes somebody will say, can I get a plate for so-and-so and take it back to them or whatever. But because of post-traumatic stress, because of addictions and mental illness and other things going on, they're not always okay being in crowds. And so that's part of the humanity of the work you all are doing too, is that you know that. And so you find other ways to meet them.
Yeah.
So can you speak to that a little bit? Because I don't have any experience with you guys moving on from the picnic to the camp.
Yeah, I think, you know, sometimes we found, you know, just by driving around, we might find a new encampment and we'll say, you know, hey, you know, maybe it's not something we want to add to our route because we don't want to be out serving for, you know, into the nighttime hours, you know, every Sunday. But we may find them and say, you know, hey, just want to let you know we're at the park at 2 o'clock. You should come up there on a Sunday and get food. And that's when we get to learn more about, you know, why they haven't came. You know, for fear of being in a crowd or the noise, the extra noise with all the extra people, or just fear of leaving their encampment because they're afraid it'll get, you know, ransacked or, you know, something, or something stolen, or, you know, there's a lot of things that go into that. And it's not until you're out, you actually go around and drive around and see people like in their homes, that you get to learn that. So, and some people are very receptive. They're like, oh, okay, I didn't know, I couldn't remember what time you guys were up there. And then you remind them, and then you'll see them at the next picnic. Like, you know, hey, glad you're here. You know, just like you said, you know, making eye contact and talking and to them. And it may be the only interaction they've had all week with somebody else. That's important. I always feel like at our park, I've always felt like, it's almost like there's an invisible shield around the park, and it's like a safe spot for them, you know. So they get to the park and they open up. I mean, it might be the same person that you drove by all week long sitting on the corner by themselves, not even wanting to look up or make eye contact with anybody, and they come to the park and they're like, hey, Rachelle, you know, and they want to hug, and they want to talk about their week and this and that. And it's the same person that wouldn't talk to anybody all week because they're scared to death to talk to somebody. So I always have felt like our park is a safe spot for people to come to and have that feeling of acceptance and love, and you know, be a vehicle for them when they need it. You know, be that person if they're ready for a different step in their life. You know, they're ready to go to rehab. I'm that consistent face, or I'm that vehicle for them that they can come to and say, hey, Rachelle, I don't want to be out here anymore.
Yeah.
You know, before Free Hot Soup and before, you know, people were consistently showing up at the same time every week and being that consistent person, there was no place for them to go to for people that they actually trusted. So I think more than anything, more than the food and more than the socks and blankets that we give, it's being a consistent person and someone that they trust and know that they can go to and actually get results, not just, you know, an empty promise, or, you know, come back next week, or, you know, whatever. I mean, we do the footwork, and we do physically drive them there if they need to, or we sit and talk to them for an extra half hour if we need to. It's whatever that need is in that moment, and there was a reason that they sought us out that day. So I mean, I'm so glad that not just myself but the crew that we've built are able to do that and be there for them when they need somebody.
Yeah, that's key. And that's part of that consistency of showing up, is that it's bankable when so much else in their life isn't. And
Right.
And yeah, there is an investment of time, but also love and energy, you're serving up love along with everything else,
Yes, for
Uh,
sure.
and so, yeah, so that's, I think, really key. And just on the encampment thing, you guys go in groups. It's not like one individual it wouldn't really be safe to do that, but to go into more with a group, and go support that's key. And if you're not familiar with the homeless crisis, there's a lot of government sweeps that go on where they do go in. I was on the trolley one day and I saw this homeless gal, and it's very obvious to me now who they are, even if I haven't seen them at a picnic. And she was just sitting there crying, and I didn't find out till later in the day that they had swept the camps that day. And so she probably lost everything because she was away from her camp for a while, came back, and they take everything that, if they don't give them the notice, or maybe they've been in an appointment and doctor appointment or something, come back and everything's gone. So in those kinds of instances, that would be one of the reasons they wouldn't leave an encampment like that, is because of that. So anyway, and that does happen. Sometimes they give them more notice so they can have a heads up, but sometimes in some cities they haven't done that, and things just happen. So
I definitely followed people from encampment to encampment to encampment, throughout the years, just because of that reason, because their camp gets swept and so they have to find a new place to land. And so our route is forever changing, because we can consistently go to XYZ, and then the next week we're going to be on the other side of the city, going around because they've been swept and now they've moved. So yeah, that's definitely a thing. And we know a lot of times when camps have been swept, because our crew is well in tune with that when that happens. And so we know that we need to go see these people for sure this week, because they're going to have needs greater than last week when they were settled into an encampment that they've been at for the past 6 months, and now they have nothing. So the temperatures dropping. Do they need extra blankets? It's been wet. It's rainy. Do they need tarps? Whatever the case may be, making sure that they're taking care of. Dry socks in rainy weather. I mean, can you imagine, your blankets are soaked and your socks, the only pair of socks you have are soaked. I mean, we know that when we're walking around in wet socks, what our feet tend to look like after a few hours. Can you imagine, having to do that for a few days, and the blisters, and then, your main source of transportation is now, you can't even go a few feet. So it's important for us to know, keep in contact with them and try to find them where they're at and make sure their needs are taken care of. I mean, I feel it's important, and to be consistent.
They're like, I mean, they're family, even if we aren't blood family, it's like everyone is God's children, so it's like, it's just shocking that there's so many people that don't know or appreciate that on that level. And it's like, but this group, it's contagious.
It is.
Everywhere. So let's talk logistics a little bit. So if someone is watching this and they want to get something like this going, I would love to see it take off even more, like it did from Portland to here. And I didn't realize that it started there. So so that's really the point. And so, but if they don't have a person yet that has had the experience like Nellie had coming in here, what would be some of the starting steps that got you all organized and that helped kind of get this to come together through a community effort?
Well, I mean, it really is as simple as picking one spot and showing up and consistently showing up in that same spot. It really is that simple. It could be, if all you wanted to do is show up every week with socks and sandwiches, do that. If you wanted to show up with soup, do soup. Soup's easy and cheap, and it tends to grow really easily. When you add this and that, next thing you know, you got 5 gallons of soup, and everybody loves soup, right? I mean, I love every kind of soup. So So yeah, I mean, really, it's as easy as picking a spot and being consistently showing up for that purpose of helping people or feeding people, talking to people. Um,
Well, it's kind of like doing any kind of potluck, right? So
yeah.
you guys had a small team, and that could be the case in some of these areas where they recruit a small team. So,
Mhm.
somebody makes a dessert, somebody makes a main course, someone brings bread. I mean,
Mhm.
this is grown for you guys now. So you have a sign up genius that you use and you pretty much, so we can, because you're feeding so many people now.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
you set up and say, hey, we want uh, 8 entrees that'll feed 25 people. And so then people just go in and sign up
Mhm.
for something, and you give them ideas of what is hearty and filling that would help these people, as far as sloppy joes or
Mhm. Mhm.
lasagna or meatloaf or
Mhm.
whatever. So that's kind of how you guys have it organized, and then you have it with dessert, you have it with um, side dishes,
And snacks. And,
scallop
mhm.
potatoes,
Mhm.
and you do something else which is really nice is they have a section where they have like hard boiled eggs, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, non PB and J
Yeah.
sandwiches, so that they actually can take something and maybe some fruit, something that tie them over if they're going to go another day or so without a picnic, right?
Yeah. We always have, like you said, a smorgasbord of food, and it really is. I wish everybody could visit my house on a Sunday around 1 o'clock because before we leave for the park, um, really, it's just it's so beautiful to see like everything coming together on a Sunday when you have people from all over the city who, you know, Miss Debbie, who always makes like the best desserts and she packages them up and, she might put them in a little box with a bow or something, or she just the time and effort she put into it. She may only make 2 dozen cupcakes, and then somebody else from another part of town comes in and they've brought 2 dozen cookies, and somebody else has brought, a sheet cake that they made, or you see desserts and things that are decorated by kids because they made it a family event that they decorated cookies or something. And then, of course, you have casseroles that come in or sloppy joes and just food that's pouring in from different people all over the city that they've made with so much love in their kitchens. And I know it's made with love because I've tasted so much of the food over the years, and it is hands down the best meal that they'll get that week. I know because the food is just amazing. Like we've had shrimp the last couple
Oh,
weeks. I've made my mom and I make a lot of food when the sign up genius falls short, or maybe the timing of the month, we might need a little bit more food. We jump in and we make a lot of food, and we've had a huge donation of shrimp. So every week I've been making 20 pounds of shrimp, and I take like these big colossal shrimp, and it's
oh,
such a treat, and
oh, it
people
is.
love it. And so it's fun to be able to do stuff like that. And when we get like a big donation of something and take something out, like, we've had steak and, we really have had some great meals. I mean, it's not like that every week, but it's really a smorgasbord of food. We have commercial size hot boxes that we fill up to keep the food warm, and it keeps the food warm for several hours. We put the soup, if we have soup, which we typically always have at least one, sometimes two different soups, because we're free hot soup.
Yeah.
Um, Even in summertime, we have soup. People still look forward to it, or we'll have a smoothies instead of soup in the summertime, maybe. Um, but we pour it directly into the cooler, and it will stay hot in that cooler for so many hours, and to ensure that everything that we're serving is fresh and hot and amazing. And so with the hot food, then we have, like you said, we always have some snacks and desserts. So they get their hot meal that they can eat there at the park, and then they get a bag and they fill it up with peanut butter and jelly, or some sort of meat sandwiches, and fresh fruit and hard boiled eggs. And We have all kinds of different snacks that we get donated each week from a large donation from CVS. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but we do get a large donation of different kind of snack items that they can fill their bag up with. And so not only are they getting a hot meal that day, they're getting whatever snacks and maybe a meal or two to eat later on that evening or the next day. We also have hygiene that we take. So if they need any sort of hygiene for that week, they can have that. Plus, we have a lady that comes with clothing. She stores all of, she has a clothing closet that she manages and takes all of our clothing donations. And so she brings that. And if they need any type of clothing, she handles making sure that happens, or shoes or blankets, and just whatever their needs are. So we do a lot in that short hour and a half there at the park. So
Yeah, it's very efficient, and you do have a beverage station usually too. So there's bottled water. Do you guys do something else like tea?
It depends on the weather. We'll do coffee a lot of times, or hot tea, or like I said, smoothies and Kool-Aid. It just depends on what we have, lemonade or whatever. We are not an organization. We're not a 501. We don't get any big funding or anything like that. Everything we do comes from people around our city that have donated their time and their resources to make that happen. So if occasionally we get, like I said, the CVS that actually comes through another entity that we get to piggyback onto. They share their donation with us. So we don't directly get that CVS donation or some of those bigger donations. They go through another entity and then help us out. So everything we get or everything that we do is self-funded by people within the city. And I mean, that alone, just to think about it, to me, is almost, it's overwhelming. It's like, it's so beautiful to watch it come together. And I'm so lucky I get to be on the forefront of that. Not so many people get to see that, and how all that just like, I mean, they show up at the park to help serve, or you have, and you just see it's just there. There's all this beautiful food, and there's, all these nice takeaway things, but that all happened by just people around the city. Just, I mean, it's just amazing. It's amazing. We have a beautiful city here, and Nellie was right when she said that Kansas City needs a free hot soup, because we have so much love in the city, and there's no doubt about it. Like, I have seen that up front and personal on so many levels. And when I have a true crisis in my life, it's those same people that have came around. I mean, I didn't know. There was one point in my life where, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but
That's okay.
there was one point in my life where tragedy had struck for me, and I didn't know those years before. I was really building an army of people around me, people that lived on the street and people that served alongside of me. But in 2018, just a couple years after I had been helping Free Hot Soup, my son was diagnosed with cancer, and I saw an outpouring of love that I would have never known 2 years prior to that. And it really helped us get through the months that were ahead of us, up to the time that he passed away, 3 months after he was diagnosed. But within those 3 months, I continued to go downtown and serve, because that was my time to gather with my people and to regroup so I could be strong for my son during those times that he needed it. And I can't even begin to tell you in all the ways that the community gave back to me. And I'm not talking about just the people that live in houses. I'm talking about the people that live, in the woods as well. They wrote me poetry, and they cried on my shoulder with me. they made a point to ask how his progress was, or actually talk to me about it, and wrote me songs, and just so many uplifting things would happen during that 1 hour that I would break away from the hospital to come be downtown. And it really fueled me to keep going. And during those months, and seeing how the city gave back to me, it only made sense for me to push forward and keep going, even when I didn't feel like I wanted to. So when I say, we all have a purpose, they've definitely shown me what my purpose is here in Kansas City. So I'm glad to be that vehicle on any day for people that need it. So.
Oh yeah. And cancer is just such a tough thing. I lost both my parents to cancer. So, and I just lost a really good friend that just got diagnosed in December, and she was gone in March. And so grief is so hard, and it's just amazing to be enveloped with people that love you and support and all of that. But that's the humanity side that people don't see on the streets with some of the unhoused, is that they're still human beings, and the more we can show that humanity back, the more it can be a healing situation for them too. So I know some people think, you're just enabling them when you give them free food and all of that. And I say, if you can't, you have to get people out of survival before they can truly start to take the steps to heal and move beyond that. And they have to have a reason bigger than themselves sometimes to do that too. And that's part of the work of the caseworkers or whoever, is to help reach into that place and help find that for them. But in the meantime, it's like what if it was your family on the streets? You would want to do something to support them and help. And so in some of these areas, start where you are. Start at this has grown and it's grown and it's grown. And I know that you guys at Free Hot Soup, you also work with a turning point in North KC, who does amazing work, and they are like 15 minutes away, but they wanted to serve that northern area, and so they have quite a campus going on over there. They're doing from when I went and visited there. And then there's churches, and that's a whole nother conversation that I will probably do on this channel, is how to collaborate with a church that wants to do this outreach work, so that you can tap into their group of people and their resources and their donations to help because I know at Washington Square Park, which they do work 3 times a week down there to serve. And they're just minutes from where the shooting was in Kansas City recently. So if you're at all familiar with that, at Union Station, it was right at that area. And but they work with a church outreach, and are able to bring 2 more days worth of picnics to that park as well. And so so what made all that possible? Was it the Facebook group that kind of started to bring people together, that all just started having conversations about, hey, we're doing this and we're going to do this? And so how does one coordinate in a new area like that, so that you're not doing it on the same days and all that kind of stuff?
We work through a Facebook group. And the Facebook group actually started with Nellie. When I joined, I think there was about 100 people on the page, and it was mostly Nellie's friends and family that were on the page. And like I said, I brought a big group, and I think within the year we grew to like 1,000 folks on the Free Hot Soup page. As of right now, I think we have about 15,000 people on the page. So that's a lot of members, a lot of people seeing what we're doing out there. And you know, it's really, it's all very organic. You know, I can't say, uh, this is exactly why there's a church involved here or whatever. It's just very organic. Somebody shows up and says, you know, hey, what do you think about, you know, if I talk to my church and see if we can use their kitchen? Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. And I think that's kind of what happened there at Washington. The right person joined the page, and they had resources that were not available prior to that, and they were able to now use their kitchen to make larger amounts of food or heat up food, or maybe even be a station to, like I use my house, like I had mentioned, where all the food comes to, and then we put it in commercial hot boxes and we take it from there. We caravan, we load up, you know, our van, trucks, cars, whatever vehicles we may have that day, and it does change often. We fill them up and we go downtown. Um, with Washington Square Park, you know, just the right person landed at the park and wanted to help, and they happened to lead the church. And then from there, they got lots of followers from the church that wanted to jump in and help, and it made their park, you know, very well oiled and organized, and it really, it's be open to change. I have seen our group, I'm speaking from my park, but our group has changed over the years, tenfold. You know, we might have a core group of these people, and then people kind of fade out, and then you get another group and they want to do things a little bit different. And I've had to adjust to those changes over the years. So just like Washington Square Park, being open to doing everything at the church. We, as a whole, within Free Hot Soup, we're not a religious based group. We don't follow any, you know, we have people from all parts of the city, all walks of life, that are able to come join the picnic. We're not ran by any one entity. It's really open to anybody, anywhere that wants to get out there and help people. It does, you don't have to even come to the park if you just consistently wanted to make cookies, or you wanted to make them once a year or once a month, or really it's whatever. We've had people offer to do haircuts at the park. So we've done that. We've had people, we've maybe once a year, Girl Scout troop wants to come and do an ice cream sundae bar. You know,
Oh,
it's really open to whatever, and you have to be open to those ideas. And kind of, you know, it's my job as lead for the park, downtown, to, if somebody brings an idea and they're excited about it, it's my job to roll with that idea for them, because if they're excited and they want to do something, why would I hinder that? And so we've done lots of really cool things over the years at the park, you know, that just came organically. So it really is, if you have an idea that, uh, don't be afraid to ask, don't be afraid to get out there and just do it. I mean, if
try
it's,
it. Yeah. And
yeah, it
see,
could be, when you were talking about, you know, how do people get started? It doesn't have to be consistently every week. It could be consistently once a month. It could be, you know, maybe you want to be the ice cream person in the summer. We've had one of those, and they looked forward to it. They knew that she was coming with ice cream. They were going to get, you know, she brings a cooler with some dry ice full of popsicles, and you know, it's 100 degrees, and you know, how inviting is that during the summer months? So they knew that they were going to get ice cream. You
yeah.
could be an ice cream person, you could be a hot dog person, you could be, it really doesn't matter, as long as you're consistent, if you wanted to do something on a long-term basis. So
And I think if you were starting off new and say you weren't really a Facebook person, you could probably just create a group chat and use that as your beginning tool. But if it does grow like what Kansas City has grown to, then you absolutely need some sort of platform that you're going to be able to get a lot of people on and do that kind of thing. I know at the Washington Square Park, I've had I've served alongside a lot of kids. So a lot of families choose to come, and
For sure.
their whole family comes in and decides to serve some nights and stuff. So
Mhm.
that's kind of cool to see that, like you, it's being instilled at an early age to give back and
Yes,
do
yes,
that sort of thing. And I do see some kids at the park coming through the lines, but it tends to be more adults,
yeah, typically, yeah.
yeah, that's what we've seen. And you all have come out rain or shine. I mean, there's been
Rain or
some
shine.
days it's been pouring and you're out there going after it. And I know I was out on Thanksgiving and it was cold. I was bundled up and I was still, and literally there were people in line in like a hoodie. And I just was like so grateful we were giving them soup because
Mhm.
and I think Alina was there one day and she was literally going through the back of her van just looking for a towel or something to give
Something new.
somebody. So we've seen a lot of that kind of thing too. So as it's grown, talk about um, well, a couple things. You're doing it in a public park, which can you just talk about how that's cool to do? Because there were issues for a little while with health
Health
department
department.
and stuff. So just address that because that's sort of the elephant in the room for
Yeah,
we see this in some cities.
right. Well, we call it a picnic because we feel like it's just that. It's a picnic with our friends in the park. Just like if you want to have a family reunion and it's potluck and everybody is bringing something, you put it out on the table and everybody eats, right? That's kind of how we envision our Sunday picnics or Saturday or whatever day of the week it is, our picnics. They're just a potluck with our friends. And that's been our workaround. And we've gotten some slack for saying friends, but as I explained earlier, I mean, these people that live in their house or out of their house or wherever they may be that show up and come for a meal have become friends of mine. They've become family. I mean, there are people that, I've even sought advice from at times, and they're people that I've brought back and they eat at my dinner table just the same as my family would or my close friends would. They've shared Christmases with me and Thanksgivings, and they truly are. I mean, I can't say that every single one of them, I've befriended in that way, but I mean, I've gotten to know a lot of people over the years, and I've met with their family and had dinner with their family, and been able to take them to reunite with family or whatever the case may be. So, friends they are, and picnics we're having. So that's our workaround for the health department. When the health department says you can't serve food without a food handler's permit, well, then you can't go to your family reunion and eat with your family without a food handler's permit because we're not doing anything different than what would be happening there. So they really came down heavy on us in 2018, the end of 2018. And they, without warning, they showed up to 3 of our picnics all on the same day. They were all Sunday picnics. One was up north, which is now what Turning Point is doing. One was up north, my park in the middle of downtown. It happened to be the one Sunday that I stepped away, so I wasn't there. But I had a good crew that was in place. And then Prospect Plaza Park, which was the original park. And they came with police forces, police, like, I don't even know how many SWATs and vans and helicopters even that circled over the park, police helicopters. I guess they anticipated it was going to get out of control. Well, it did. It did because we had men, women, and children in line waiting for a meal, a hot meal that were refused that day because the police came in and they confiscated all of the food. They threw it into trash bags and they poured bleach on it. So there were children in the line crying because they were so hungry and that they were anticipating that meal that moment. And of course, in turn, grown men and women crying, because it was just a trickle down effect when you see the children crying and everybody hungry and wanting to eat, and all this food was just ripped right out from underneath them. And they left the trash bags at the parks. So when news crew got wind of it and interviews were happening later that very same day at Prospect Plaza Park, the trash bags were still there, and people, when we arrived, people were going through the trash bags trying to get out the food that had the less amount of bleach on it so they could eat because they were hungry. So also on, caught on the news. And so that made international news at that time. The health department shutting down our picnics, and we had to make some adjustments because we were in the limelight. And if the health department said until we could fight it with our lawyers that, volunteered pro bono to come out and support us, because like I said, we're not a financially funded group, it's just people jumping in to help, and people did jump in to help. And we did prepackaged stuff at the park for several weeks until all that got under control. And like I said, that was 2018. I guess the health department decided that maybe it wasn't so terrible what we were doing after all, and they haven't bothered us since. We're back to full-blown picnics doing what we do. We did learn later it was more about all the complaints that they claimed came in were from the brick and mortar buildings that supported people that weren't getting funding because they were coming to our picnics instead of going to their buildings. So not anything we didn't expect, because we knew that nobody was complaining about our picnics, because our food was, top notch, and people were getting love and care and resources and everything that they needed. I mean, what is there to complain about really when you're helping people in that manner?
Well, and I know Washington Square Park recently had someone patrolling around there saying, park ranger, whatever, saying they needed permits, and that got resolved too. I'm not sure exactly how, but
Yeah.
it get taken care of. And so everything's just been flowing, but it's good to bring up these things. They are political situations that could evolve, but basically we know that how this is going down isn't any different than a family picnic in the park, or, even a company picnic, these kinds of things.
Right. Yeah.
And nobody's paying a visit to the health department to set that up. So it's just some kind of red tape that someone's creating. And I know they had to fight it for a little bit there, but it did get handled. So just be resilient,
Be resilient. Yes, we do make an effort, because a lot of the problem, if there was a complaint, or if there is something to complain about, I should say, when you gather that many people, we're talking about serving, 200 meals within an hour and a half. And since COVID, we went to disposable containers. We used to just serve them on a throwaway plate, and then they'd eat there at the park and throw it away. Well, now it's more of a clamshell kind of container. And then you have plasticware and napkins. And so there's a lot of trash, obviously, that's going to accumulate when you have that many people. And we always make an effort to leave the park better than we found it. So if we show up to the park and there's trash, maybe from some other group that's came through, or just people coming through the park, or whatever the case may be, we do make an effort. After our picnic, we go around with trash bags and we make sure that all the trash is picked up. The city has told us that it's okay for us to leave our trash there, so we bundle it up and leave it there, but we do make sure it's picked up in the park. And I think that's important for everybody to know that we're out there, we're feeding people, and there is trash, but we're making sure that it's picked up. And we always try to reiterate and to the people in line, hey, do us all a favor and make sure that you get your trash into the trash can, which I don't know why, but in the middle of downtown, it's the windiest place in the city. So sometimes just hanging on to your plate and not watching it fly across the park is problematic. So some of that can't be avoided, but we do our best to make sure that everything is tidied up before we leave any place that we serve. So
Yeah, that's an important point because I know they're doing that at the other parks too. So, and yeah, just putting someone on that or a couple people on that at the end of the mix is a super good idea. So talk a little bit about storage because I know you just mentioned your place and I know as this has grown and then people started giving you donations and then there were leftover things sometimes from one picnic. So talk about how you've navigated that piece of it too.
well, anybody that's jumped in and became a super will tell you that there is an area within their house that has been overtaken, and that's kind of how it started at my house. Lucky for me, my family's been very patient with me over the years as our dining room accumulated stuff at one point became overwhelming. We're like, okay, well, we can't really store this in the dining room anymore. I had my son's man cave that had their ping pong table and couches and stuff as they were teenagers at the time. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to take this little wall here with some shelving for stuff for free hot soup. I hope you guys don't mind. And then it became an L-shaped section in their man cave, and then I walled off half of the man cave, and I took half of it and gave them half, and then they weren't using anymore as they were getting out of the house, and so pretty soon I took over their entire man cave as a free hot soup donation area and place to sort, and then we purchased a 10 by 20 foot shed that now has our overflow in it, and then we have another 10 by 10 tent area set up that has our other overflow in it. So for me, it's just something that I've committed to, and it was my choice to make our home a hub for our picnics. It was a big commitment. We happen to have enough land to be able to do that. We have enough space to do that. We also have a pantry. The man cave is now a family cave, so we took that back over and when we purchased the shed, but we still have a pantry in there that is open for anybody who's food insecure or needing something, go through, fill up with whatever's in the pantry, and it's all donated items that I get from different entities all over the city. We have a freezer full of meats and foods that we can use for the picnics, or if somebody wants to make food for a picnic for us, but they don't have the money to purchase ingredients, they can come over and shop through the pantry and get, you know, whatever it is. If I have rice and they can turn that into something with some vegetables and some meat that I have, they can do that. So it doesn't cost anything for them to help. Doesn't cost anything for anybody to come down and serve. So there's lots of ways to help without, dipping into your own pockets. Of course, we rely on those people that do, as well, make their own food and bring it to the picnics. But that's my storage for our park. Each park is very unique to how they get items stored and to their parks. As you mentioned, Washington Square Park is fortunate enough to have teamed up with the church. They store a lot of stuff there. Lindsay, who leads that park, her garage is overtaken with free hot soup donations. I would venture to say Prospect Plaza Park, their lead, her house is also taken over by a certain area with donations and her team that helps her. So it's just really a collaboration of what you're willing to commit to as a core piece of that park. It's all unique. I have somebody that houses all the clothing for me, so I don't have to worry about that. And Jennifer Hull does a lot of the hygiene. So if she needs a refill, she can, come to my overflow, fill up her stuff. And so it really just is a collaboration and very organic how it comes together, and each park is unique on, as you know, because you've been to multiple parks. Everybody does everything just a little bit different, but the intent is the same. The intent is to be there with stuff to nourish them, and to be there for support or supplies, or just to listen to somebody for that day. People show up at the park sometimes and don't even eat. They're just like, I just wanted to come see you and say hi, and get a hug, or I need 15 minutes of your time. So it's every park is a little bit different. But
Well, and I know you're a resource too. So for different things that, are needed, sometimes people just need to know where to go to get that next piece of help. And,
sure.
The recent, this guy wasn't coming to the picnics, but, a good example is Alex. So, Rachelle just mentioned him on Facebook, an older gentleman who she got connected with that just 6 months ago lost his wife, and now his home was burned down, and basically had nothing. Even the car keys were in the house when it burned. So so it's been a whole effort to try to figure out how to support him. And so
It's that army I was talking about. I'm fortunate to have that army to have built that up to be able to help Alex. So yeah, it's
that,
amazing.
and that comes over time as you find different people that can play different roles. Everybody has their specialty and all of that. So but no doubt it's like it doesn't end with a bowl of soup. It's really it's service in whatever form can happen. So I'm curious, we talked about the city challenges a little bit. What have been other challenges besides storing stuff that you have experienced over the years doing this? Just
One of the biggest challenges for me, and I've had to put up some boundaries myself, and expectations. I've had to shift my expectations a little bit, because sometimes my want for somebody is greater than their own. I can consistently see somebody and they consistently want help, and they want to do something different with their life, and then you put forth a lot of effort to make that happen, and then for a million reasons, they end up right back where they're at. And it could be as far as, they've rehabbed, they've gotten housing voucher, and they're in their own house, and they're doing so good. And then, a couple months later, you see them and they're back in line for a meal, which a lot of people, even though they're housed, they still come for a meal, but maybe the situation is different. They're back on the street, and that's frustrating sometimes to see, but I'm not walking in their shoes. I'm not dealing with the illnesses or the situations that they are on a day-to-day basis. And so it's not for me to judge why that happens, but it's been a real struggle for me over the years. It's much easier now, of course, having been out there for so long, but I think it's initially for a lot of people, that's a struggle, because they're like, why in the world would they do that when they had everything going for them? Sometimes it could be just one situation that puts somebody in a tailspin and sends them back where they were, and not just because they it's not that they wanted to go back there necessarily, but maybe they couldn't stand being away from the people that they had grown to know, and the people that had become family to them, and being in a house by themselves and enclosed within four walls and on other side of town without the resources they were used to is just sometimes overwhelming for people. So, I mean, the reasons vary so much, and just being accepted to whatever their reason is has been a struggle for me over the years, and I've really had to lower expectations and of what I want for them, and just go whatever it is they want for themselves. And if they're back in line and they're back in the woods and they need resources, I'm not, it's not my place to judge them for that. So I would say that's probably been my biggest hurdle, is wanting more than they may want or be able to provide for me,
Yeah.
in that moment.
Well, yeah, you want to give them, the step up to create it all again, right? And
Right.
but I would say also, just observing the team that I have observed that's all doing this work in this area, there's a tendency to burn out too.
Yeah.
That's something to bring up, is just self-care, caregivers in general. I mean, nurses are known to be like the worst at self-care because they're always putting out energetically, right? And as a coach for years and years with entrepreneurs and others, I was always like, take care of yourself. You still got to take care of you. And so there's so much you can give, and then you actually have to rein it in and be sure you're still doing what you need to for yourselves, because
Absolutely.
the need is huge, and especially in this category of humanitarian work. It's just such a big hole right now, and it takes so much to support. And so boundaries are important, along with what do you personally need, because you can burn out. And that's why I really recommend, if you're starting this in an area, that you do get a small team, so it's not just all on you. And then you've got people to lean on. I know the other challenge sometimes is that sometimes it's not close to payday and people don't have as much resources to buy food and make food. And so you might come up a little short one week. And so your response, usually you've got a big enough group now that you can actually either have stuff stockpiled, or you can just say, hey, we're short this week. Can y'all, rally? Even if you can't drop some food off, and so that can be really stressful for somebody that's new doing this, if all of a sudden the people that would normally show up for some reason can't do it, or they're not making food, to, have some backup plans, in place, so that it doesn't feel stressful,
Yeah. I'm fortunate to have a good crew, and we're fortunate enough to have the foundation within our group, within Free Hot Soup, the main page, to go there and say, just like you said, hey, I need some help this week. I'm struggling. It's a different, I could say I have, on my personal my personal Facebook page, I have a good number of friends and family on there. And this isn't a dig at any of them, but I have a good number of friends and family on my personal page. And then we have this large group within Free Hot Soup, and I could take the same post and post it on both the Free Hot Soup page and my personal page. And the response you get within Free Hot Soup, because you have a group, not just a large group, but you have a large group of people that are there purposefully to help people. So the response within that group, whenever I post something, without fail, I get exactly what I need for that week, sometimes in abundance. And then now I went from having, it's like feast or famine, I went from having nothing, and now I have so much food that I'm going to be out all night finding people to give it to, which is fine. I would rather do that than fall short in a line of 150, 200 people where I can't feed the last 20 or 30 people. That is a horrible feeling. And there's been many times over the years where we'll crowdsource some funds and send somebody to get pizza and feed the last group if we need to, or whatever we've done. We went to McDonald's and said, hey, I need 50 cheeseburgers right now, and waited in line and waited for them to make them or whatever, and then went back and made sure everybody was fed. So we make it happen. But we're fortunate to have the group that we have, and we're fortunate that Kansas City is such a loving city, and we have so many people here that want to help people. And I didn't know that until I found Free Hot Soup. It's really about the people you surround yourself with. And then those people are usually like-minded, and those people are like-minded, and pretty soon you're surrounded by so much goodness. And that's what I found within Free Hot Soup. There's so much goodness within one page that it gives you all the feels. I mean, I don't know. I get chills thinking about it.
I mean,
Yeah.
they call us the heartland for a reason.
Yes.
And but to know that this is all just Kansas City residents just pulling together, from the metro area. They're not sitting around waiting for someone else to fix any issues. It's like, what can we do? And it's just roll up your sleeves. Let me get, this winter there was a shout out tents, there was a shout out for sleeping bags, socks. I know there's some other places around the country where they actually create a wall and they, put up socks and stuff somewhere where those things are there for people to just grab whenever, kind of thing. But because we have so much structure in place already now, it just makes sense that most of the time this stuff comes right to the places where we're serving the food, and makes it really easy for them to find us. And they do make requests. Sometimes they say, hey, do you have batteries? Do you have hot hands? Do you have, whatever? And so, and you have an Amazon list. At the end, I'm going to put that after this goes out. I will put that down at the bottom under the show notes, and people can contribute to the group, and that money will go towards things that are needed at the time, whether it's socks or snacks or whatever needs to be filled in the gaps as far as what you're doing. So that'll be really helpful. But what I also wanted to just ask is, what has surprised you in doing this through the years?
What has surprised me? Well, I probably hit on most of that. I think just the overwhelming support, and knowing that at any given moment, if there's a need, I know it can be met. I guess I'm not so much surprised by that anymore, because we've been doing it for so long. But just the overwhelming support in Kansas City, and I love seeing new people come to the park to serve for the first time. And I'll get a message later on that day and just say, hey, thank you for letting us come out. That was so great for our family. We'd really like to come back and do it again. Of course, yes, please. Anytime we have extra hands at the park, we're always welcoming that for sure. But I guess just the support. I mean, really, it's just so crazy that, like, the Alex story that you shared, just on a whim, I happened upon him. I mean, it just happened. He didn't know me, I didn't know him, and after I talked to him for 5 minutes, I knew that I had the ability to help him. So I was just the right person at the right time in the right place, and we were able to get some stuff going for him. I will say now, without any surprise, we were able to get stuff going for him. But I think when you ask what I'm most surprised by, I think over the years it's been just the overwhelming support that I'm able to receive and able to forward on to other people.
And can you think, is there some stories that come to mind of just success of people that have been at the picnics and how it's changed their lives, or they've gotten off the streets, or
Sure.
lives have shifted as a result of all of this?
Yeah, we have several regular people that come help serve that were once on the street and in line at our picnics, that their life has turned around so much that they were able to get off the street, get into housing, and with the help of different volunteers that had different resources, get back on their feet and now have become a permanent part of our picnics that you would never even know that they were once on the street. We have lots of volunteers like that. Lots of volunteers that we have are people that are family to someone that has, um, you know, become homeless. And maybe they're just there because, they're hoping to see that family member, come through the line one day. And just by being there, they become a vital part of our picnics. And we've had one of my core volunteers over the years. She actually came to the picnic for the very first time because she has a son who lives in another country, that was victim to addiction and became homeless in his country. And she felt in her heart that she couldn't be there for him, but maybe she could be here for somebody else and make a difference in somebody else's son's or daughter's life. And she showed up for the first day, and I thought, oh gosh, this lady's never coming back. And she came back the following week, and then I don't know, maybe 6, 7. I mean, she was in the beginning, so 7 years later, and she's still very much a vital part of what we do. So it really, a lot of times people come because they have a connection. Maybe they were once, an addict, and they can sympathize or empathize with what that person's going through and where they're at because they've been there, and they can offer some sort of support or hope for that person. Hey, I was once in your shoes. That's something that I can't say. You know, I can't say I've been where you are. I haven't, but I still want to be here for you. But I think those that can bring that peace to the picnics is very vital. And we have a lot of people that serve for that reason, because they can relate. So it really, we do have a lot of success stories, a lot of people that have been housed over the years, and a lot of people that wouldn't be housed if we weren't out there, just because we are that consistent person. When they're ready, they can go to, and I don't necessarily hook them up with housing, but I have people that do, and I can say, okay, hey, you need to go see this person, and they will direct you where you need to go. We do have some cool things going on in Kansas City, that more places that have popped up that offer resources that we can send them to on these days to make sure that they get where they want to go if that's truly what they want to do. So I think that's contributed to the success of people getting off the street and into housing. I do feel there's where we fail is following those people after they get into housing. That's something we definitely need to work on here in Kansas City is, they've found friends in our group and we help them. Now they're in a house and they're left by themselves. So that's a whole nother free hot soup group in itself, is helping people stay where they are and continue to flourish in their new environment.
Well, and as we move forward with more funding and with the ability to create more transitional housing, emergency housing, long-term housing, I know from speaking to many of you that that's going to need to be addressed as far as more community, more wraparound services that will still support while they're making the adjustment back into a normal environment.
Yeah,
And
so important.
it's hugely important. And I think you and I have had the discussion too about their invisibility and the fact that, I had a situation with that myself with a homeless encounter in Arizona that it it was I turned around to go back and assist someone that was homeless, and I pulled over. It was really hard to get back to where he was, but when I finally got back to him and I pulled into like the corner of a major street, and it was like a Walgreens or something, I pulled up and I waved him over, and he came over, and I looked at him and handed him, a $10 bill or whatever. And I said, here, I'm sorry. And he goes, you came back for me. And he looked me right in the eyes and said, you came back for me. He goes, and both of us, we just had tears in our eyes. That moment, right? Where you're like, he's seen. And
Mhm.
and it just really, we all as humans need to be seen. It's a need. It's a tremendous need. But especially for them, and they become this invisible population that's out there, that's just sort of in the shadows and all of that. And so that's why I said what I said about looking people in the eye because ever since that, his name is John. I'm never going to forget him. He inspired me to do my own outreach in Arizona to 200 people on Christmas Eve one year. And he doesn't even know that ever happened,
Yeah, that's
Um,
amazing.
but he changed my life, and I'm sure he's impacting what I'm doing today now. So anyway,
Thank
that's
you, John.
John. Yeah. So, that's that one person can change the world, idea, right? So,
I think one of the most profound things I had heard over the course of time, that really right in line with that is, I was at the park and I always will say, hey, it's good to see you. Good to see you again, or whatever. And as I'm going down the line and I'm talking to people, hey, it's good to see you. And somebody responds, it's good to be seen. And that has carried with me over the years, because it really is as simple as that. It is as simple as acknowledging somebody. Or I don't typically give money out because I don't want, I interact with a lot of people and I don't have enough money to give to everybody. So, my my giving comes in other means. But um when I pull up to a stoplight and there's somebody on the corner, whether it's somebody I know or not, before free hot soup, I would have been that person that have been like, uh, looking around in your car, trying to not make eye contact. They don't see me, they don't see me, or whatever. I was that person. And now I try to make an effort to, at least look their direction. I don't have money to give you at that moment, but I look their direction. I look them, face to face, and I smile at them, or I'll wave. And, you know, at first, a lot of them are just taken back, like, she acknowledged me, and that could be the difference in someone's day. And I've heard that so many times from people, just
exactly.
smile and wave. You don't have to be so rude when you come up to the stoplight. But I think it's
Well, I
not
think
because
their
people
own
want to be rude.
it's their own uncomfortableness, the
Yes,
person
for
that's
sure.
there, or it's their own fear of
Mhm.
looking at that, as
Yeah.
part of our culture. In Arizona, we used to have blessing bags, and so we'd have those in the car, and we'd hand it to them, or we'd give them water
Mhm.
because everyone was thirsty because it's
Mhm.
so hot. So, we would do, all that kind of stuff, and it was great. But yeah, it's like some people just have to figure out, what is the thing to do, or give
Mhm.
them a gas card, or a little small amount of a food card can be good too. So
For sure.
all those kinds of, my dog's moving around. So you've done, through the years, you've actually done a couple of other things that are unique in the area that I thought we should touch on before we wrap up today. And one of them is the memorial service that you do, and also the other one is the cookie exchange.
One of
You
my
want to touch
favorites.
on both of those?
Well, the memorial services, we've done lots of different things over the years, just depending on how well we may have known that person, or what their friends that are closer to them want to do. But we've seen a lot of death, whether it's from the heat or the cold or natural causes or fires or something else, over time, just like we would in our own lives with our own family and our own friends, and we go to their funerals and their services. It's no different. The people that die while living outside for whatever reason also deserve that same uh, closing to their life. And we try to honor that with their core group of friends, come up with an idea to honor them at that time. We've done balloon releases, and we've done separate little gatherings, and had people come out and speak about them, or get information from family and do a more personal service. We've done a lot of different things, but then once a year, there's a service that happens for all people that have passed away within the year, and they honor all the names of the people that have passed away on the street. So I don't lead that. I have been able to attend that, and it's very can be a little overwhelming, just because there are a lot of people that, maybe I didn't even know, because it's not necessarily talked about, like when your aunt or uncle dies and everybody knows because it's shared, that information's shared, but sometimes people pass away on the street and you don't know until months later, and not able to actually do anything until you hear their name come across in this memorial service, several months later. Um, so we do that. I think it's important to honor everybody in their life, whether you approved of it or not. It was still a life worth living. So there's that. And then the cookie exchange, on a lighter note. One year early on, Christmas fell on a Sunday, and I didn't feel good about showing up on Christmas Day to serve food and not have a little something special for everybody. The only way I knew to do that was through food, because that's what we do. So I thought, well, how cool would it be if we could get like just a little box of treats and wrap them up so they can actually have something to unwrap on Christmas Day. So I took this idea to the Facebook page, and I said, hey, what if we made little treat boxes for Christmas Day? And then, of course, everybody's like, yes, let's do it. So somebody donated a spot for us to do that at. And the response was, again, that whole surprise thing. It was overwhelming. Like, we had sweets and treats and cookies and things that the kids had decorated, and fudge and pretzels and you name it. We had this outpouring of treats come in from all over, and we had stations set up, and so we had boxes that were donated. So the kids would grab a box, and then they would go and they would fill up the boxes with all these treats. Then it would sit on a table, and then there was a whole wrapping station. They would wrap them up, and we would stack them. And I think that first Christmas, we made 1,000 boxes of treats and stuff to hand out on between Saturday and Sunday. So since then, the Saturday before Christmas, the Saturday morning before Christmas, no matter where it lands, we now gather. It's consistently been at a Turning Point, which is the group you mentioned earlier. They have a large enough space that we can go there, and people can drop off whatever. They can stay and they can help, or they can drop it off to one of our members, and we can get it there and assemble those boxes or bags or whatever. This year we did 1,000 like little bags with handles that were donated. I sent all of those bags over to a local elementary school, and the entire school decorated the bags. Each child got to decorate a bag, and then they brought them back to me. So each bag we handed out, it wasn't wrapped in gift paper this time. But it was decorated by one of the kids here locally. So that was really special. So
They were so
um,
cute.
I know, I know.
And
We get to do a lot of fun stuff.
it turned into quite a family affair because I actually baked and I also showed up to assemble, and whole families were there doing it
Lots of
together.
kids, yes.
Really
It's definitely a way for if once a year we've had people now that came back every year with their family. It's grown quite a bit. I feel like next year we need a bigger location because we were a lot of people in it was a big location, but we were still a lot of people wanting to help. So it's definitely something the entire family from beginning to end. If you know, if you wanted to make something and then come help assemble something that everybody can do. And it's we've done a lot of different fundraisers over the years, but that is definitely my favorite event that happens annually. So yeah,
yeah.
thanks for letting me mention it.
So you can get creative in your area. You might have something that's, culturally going on that would be really cool to tie in with. I know there's a group that's getting ready to start doing some stuff in South Africa, and they've probably got a whole other vibe going on that they could play off of there. So yeah, so very cool. But I thought it's worth mentioning because it is a really awesome event, and it just shows that you can do some extra credit kind of that will support the community. And like you said, they appreciate the gifting and the surprise. And every time I serve, people come through the line and say thank you and I'm so grateful. And it you get the warm fuzzies from doing it because it's making a difference. So yeah, so on any final things that you'd want to make sure people know about that I might not have asked?
Oh, we've covered so much.
Yeah.
Um,
Is there anything
no, I
that,
just would say,
oh, I was just going to say, is there anything in hindsight that you wished you'd done differently when you started? Maybe that's a good question.
well, I definitely from the get-go jumped all in. And kind of took my family by surprise. So I it was a bit overwhelming for me at first because I was trying to juggle and do too much. I think over time I've learned that um, know what you're capable of. Like you said before, be sure to take care of yourself. Um, Volunteer burnout, or there's another technical word for it, but basically that's it. It's a real thing, and I've seen people that go through that and then they never get back in because it was such a burnout for them. They're like, can't do that anymore. But really, they were in their element when they were really flourishing when they were there. And it's sad for me to see them completely just not do it anymore. So I think just really pacing yourself and knowing what your limitations are. And it's okay to take a break at any time. It's okay never to do it again if that's what you want to do. It's okay to do it once a year. It's okay to do it once a month. It's okay. It's whatever your limitations are, and not doing it just to keep up with everybody because everybody works at different paces. So
And this
really,
is
I think
one,
that's
I
the
mean,
biggest
this is a
takeaway.
great model over 8 years of what can be accomplished, but obviously it doesn't start with all of those pieces. I mean, at this point, we know probably 1,500 to 2,000 are getting fed every week
Yeah.
by the locals, and so it's a big operation now that everyone can learn from. But yeah, definitely start where you can, and
Mhm.
And if any of these, if you've got things that have been started in an area, then maybe some of these suggestions today will help propel you into doing some more cool stuff in your city, to contribute. And even though there's a lot of support and help that's going on here, there's an unending need for more. And so that's why we would really appreciate any contributions that you want to make to the Amazon wish list for free hot soup. If it doesn't get used in this at our Davis picnic, then it'll likely still touch some of the other groups that are going on here, because there is a very collaborative effort that goes on here in our city. So so we would appreciate all of that. So this is a new channel. I would love if you would subscribe. We'll be doing deep dives into everything that has to do with serving the planet right now, whether it's sustainability and gardening, taking care of animals, whether it's has to do with the environment, all different new healing modalities coming out that will get people well rapidly and end things like cancer, and all of this stuff is coming as well. So I look forward to bringing all of that to you. And I just want to thank Rachelle for taking the time today to really share with us so that we could learn. I certainly picked up on some new information I didn't know. I need to go to your house, is what I know next.
It's a mess right now, but yes, please do.
Be a part of the beginning phase even before we go to the picnic. So anyway, so I just want to thank you once again, Rachelle.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been fun. I always look forward to the opportunities that I get to share what fills my heart each week. So I appreciate you for having me.
Well, you're just a gift to the city, and we're great. We're grateful to have you. So, all right. Well, let me just stop our recording. Thank you so much.